A real son will help us, Dad said, but I refused and he kicked me out. It's easier to live without you, he said. But it won't last long because now I stopped paying sister and now. A real son will help us, Dad said, but I refused, so he kicked me out. It's easier to live without you, he said. But it didn't last long, because I stopped paying my sister, and now. Looking back, I should have seen it coming. My father had always thought of himself as a businessman. He wasn't. He was just a guy who got lucky once, made some money, and assumed he had the Midas touch. He didn't. When his last business venture collapsed, so did everything else. He lost every dollar he had, and instead of trying to rebuild, he just gave up. For the last few years he had done nothing. No work, no plans, no efforts to fix things. He just sat around and blamed the world for his failures. My mother tried to hold it all together, but she always made excuses for him, telling me, "He's just going through a rough patch." Or, "He just needs time." This rough patch lasted for years. And in the meantime, I became the provider. I was working in IT, making good money, but I had no life. I spent all my time at home working. No dating, no friends, no hobbies, just work. And since I was making money and still living at home, I guess my parents thought it was only natural that I'd start paying for everything. At first it was small things. A grocery bill here, a utility bill there. Then it got bigger, car repairs, property taxes, medical expenses. But by far the biggest expense was my sister's college tuition. Ashley was a nightmare. I don't say that lightly. She wasn't my dad's biological daughter, but he raised her as his own. She was in college now, and since my dad was broke, it fell on me to pay for it. $30,000 a year. A ridiculous amount of money. And she was totally ungrateful. She never once thanked me. She never once acted like I was doing her a favor. For her, it was my duty. She laughed at me all the time, made fun of me for still living at home, called me a loser for never going out. And yet, every time tuition was due, she and my father would remind me that it was my responsibility. I took it for a while. Mostly because at least my mom was on my side. She was the only one who ever told me she appreciated what I was doing. Then my dad had an idea. A new business. He came to me all excited and told me he needed $22,000 to get started. "I'll pay you back when I make it big," he said. I almost laughed. "No," I said. His face immediately changed. A real son would help his father. I told him he was a grown man and he needed to start acting like one. That's when he lost it. He started yelling, saying I was selfish, ungrateful, and had no respect for him. My mom tried to calm him down, but he wouldn't listen. "Fine," I said. "Here's $5,000. That's all you're getting." He stared at it as if I had insulted him. "What?" "That's it. I've had enough of you. Get out. You live in my house and still refuse to do what I say." I wasn't even angry. I just looked at him and said, "Fine. I'm leaving today." As I packed my things, Ashley stood in the hallway with her arms crossed and a grin on her face. "I guess you're finally getting what you deserve," she said. I didn't answer. I just walked past her and out the door. But I wasn't done with her yet. I left that night. I packed my belongings into a few bags, booked an apartment online, and drove off without looking back. My mom cried, begged me to reconsider, but I told her it was time. I was done. And for the first time in years I felt free. No more paying for everyone. No more being treated like an ATM. No more walking on eggshells around my father's moods. It was like a weight had been lifted off my chest. The first weeks were peaceful. I focused on work, got my apartment set up, and most importantly, stopped sending money home. That's when the real war began. The first phone call came a month later. My mom. "Mike, it's time to pay Ashley's tuition." I was expecting this. I kept my voice calm. "I'm not paying it." There was silence. Then a nervous laugh. What do you mean? You always pay. Not anymore, I said. I don't live there. I'm not responsible for them. Her voice grew desperate. Mike, you know your dad can't afford this dash. He kicked me out. I interrupted. Remember? Said it would be easier to live without me? Well, here we are. She tried reasoning with me, then guilt, then outright begging. I didn't budge. And when Ashley found out, she lost it. I started getting text after text. First, her usual taunts. Oh, look at you, finally growing a backbone. Too bad you're still a pathetic loser. Then came the threats. You'll regret this. You think you can just walk out on your family? And then the real kicker. Dad says he'll do whatever it takes to get the money. You should have helped him. This is on you. I didn't answer. I figured they'd get loans, find another way. Not my problem anymore. I was wrong. 3 days later, my mom called again, her voice shaking. Mike, your dad did something stupid. I felt a pit in my stomach. What did he do? She hesitated. He borrowed money. A lot of money. From bad people. I closed my eyes. Of course he did. Apparently, after I cut him off, my dad got desperate. Instead of getting a job like a normal person, he turned to some friends who loaned him a large sum of money. He swore he'd pay them back with his business profits. But there were no profits. There was no business. And now they wanted their money. How much? I asked, already dreading the answer. 40,000, she whispered. I almost dropped my phone. Are you kidding me? She wasn't. And now the people he borrowed from were getting angry. They had already shown up at the house once, demanding payment. They weren't exactly the legal type. You've got to help, my mother begged. They're going to hurt him, Mike. Please. I sighed and rubbed my temples. Let me think. I had no intention of bailing him out. But I had a feeling this was far from over. I didn't go to work the next day. I couldn't concentrate. My dad had managed to get himself into something serious, and as much as I wanted to ignore it, I knew it wasn't going away. $40,000. That wasn't the kind of debt you just ignore, especially when it came from the kind of people my dad had borrowed from. And knowing him, he had probably overpromised and underdelivered, thinking he could charm his way out of it. I had no intention of bailing him out, but I had to see how bad things were. So I went back. Walking up to my parents' house felt strange. I had only been gone a month, but it already felt like a different life. The place looked the same, but I wasn't the same person who had left. When I walked in, my dad was sitting in his usual chair, arms crossed, looking smug. I knew you'd come crawling back, he said. Took you long enough. I almost laughed. He really thought I was here to rescue him. Tell me exactly what happened, I said, ignoring him and looking at my mother. She looked exhausted. 3 men came last night. They knocked first, but when your dad didn't answer, they started banging on the door. They were yelling and demanding money. When your dad finally opened it, they said if he didn't get their money soon, there would be consequences. I turned to my dad. So? What's your plan? He scoffed. I just need more time. If you... No. I cut him off. I'm not giving you a dime. You got yourself into this, you get yourself out. He glared at me. You'd let your own father suffer? You mean the one who kicked me out a month ago? The one who told me it would be easier to live without me? Ashley, who had been sitting on the couch scrolling through her phone, finally spoke. God, you're such an ass, Mike. You make all this money and you can't even help your own family? You owe us. I laughed. Owe you? For what? She rolled her eyes. For being family. That was it. That was all she had. Not an ounce of gratitude. Not even an acknowledgement of what I had already done for her. I turned back to my mother. You're the only person I care about here. If you want to leave, I'll help you. But if you stay, you're on your own. She looked torn. Mike, I can't just dash. Before she could finish, there was a loud, heavy bang on the front door. We all froze. Then another bang. And another. A deep voice called out, "Time's up, old man." My dad's face turned pale. For the first time in my life, I saw my father truly afraid. His face lost all color, and his hands shook slightly as he stood up. The pounding continued. "Open up. We know you're in there." My mother looked at me, panic in her eyes. Ashley sat frozen on the couch, clutching her phone. I exhaled sharply. "Are you going to open it or should I?" My dad shook his head angrily. "No, just be quiet. Maybe they'll leave." I almost laughed. Yeah, I'm sure violent loan sharks are the kind that just walk away if you ignore them. The knocking stopped. There was silence for a moment. Then a voice, quiet, too quiet, came through the door. "You don't pay us back, we take something else. That's the way it works. So, last chance. Open the door." I went to the window and pulled back the curtain a little. 3 men stood outside. One was short and stocky, covered in tattoos. Another was tall and bald, wearing a leather jacket. But the third man, the one doing the talking, was different. Well-dressed, quiet, almost professional. This wasn't some random gang. These were people who knew exactly what they were doing. My dad stood rooted to the spot, shaking his head. My mother whispered, "Mike, please do something." I made a decision. I walked to the door, unlocked it, and pulled it open. The 3 men looked at me. The well-dressed one nodded politely. "You're not the old man," he said. I leaned against the door frame. "No. But I'm the one who actually has a brain. Let's talk." My dad hissed from behind me. "Mike, don't dash." I ignored him. "So my dad owes you 40 grand. Let's be honest, he's not going to pay you back." The well-dressed man tilted his head slightly. "That's his problem, not yours." "See, that's where you're wrong," I said. "I'm making it my problem so you don't make it my mother's problem." I nodded at her standing behind me. "She has nothing to do with this. Neither does my sister. So whatever happens, they stay out of it. Agreed?" The man studied me for a moment. "And what exactly are you offering?" I had no plan. But I had to think quickly. "Give me a week," I said. "I'll get you some money. Not all of it, but enough to keep you happy for now. In return, you leave her alone." The man looked at me for a long time. Then he smiled. "I like you?" He turned to the other 2 men. "See? This one actually understands how business works." He reached into his jacket, pulled out a small card, and handed it to me. "1 week," he said. "Call me." Then he turned and walked away, the other 2 following. As soon as they were gone, I turned back inside. My dad stormed up to me. "What the hell was that? You think you can just do business with criminals?" I laughed in his face. "Oh, I'm the problem? You borrowed from them, idiot. I just saved your ass." He opened his mouth to argue, but before he could, my mom did something I never expected. She stepped forward, looked him dead in the eye, and said, "I'm done." Silence. Ashley stared at her. "What?" Mom's voice was firm. "I'm leaving. I should have left years ago. Mike, can I stay with you?" I nodded immediately. "Of course." She turned to Ashley. "You can come with me or stay with him. Your choice." Ashley looked between us. Then she scoffed. "I'm staying here. This is his mess, not mine." Mom shook her head sadly. Then she went into the bedroom to pack. For the first time, my father looked truly lost. He turned to me as if he expected me to say something. I just smiled. "Enjoy your easier life without me." Then I walked out the door, my mother right behind me. I drove my mom to my apartment in complete silence. She just stared out the window, her hands folded tightly in her lap. I didn't push her to talk. She had just walked out on a marriage that lasted over 20 years. That wasn't easy, no matter how bad things had been. When we got inside, she sat down on the couch and let out a deep sigh. I should have left him a long time ago, she finally said. I nodded. Yeah, you should have. She gave me a tired smile. No, I told you so? I shrugged. You already know. She chuckled, but then her face turned serious. Mike, what are you going to do about those men? I had been thinking about that the entire drive home. I wasn't about to throw 40 grand at my dad's problems. But at the same time, I wasn't going to let these guys come after my mom. I'll figure something out, I said. The next day, I called the number on the card. A smooth voice answered. I was wondering when you'd call. Let's meet, I said. We agreed on a small cafe in a quiet part of town. When I arrived, the well-dressed man was already there, sipping an espresso. He gestured for me to sit. Mike, was it? He said, smiling. I like people who take initiative. I didn't bother with small talk. I'm not paying my dad's debt. He tilted his head, amused. Oh? But, I continued, I have a counteroffer. He leaned forward, intrigued. I'm listening. I took a deep breath. My dad is useless. He's never going to pay you back. But I have something better, a way for you to make your money back and profit. He smirked. And what's that? I pulled out my phone and showed him my company's website. I work in IT. Cybersecurity, to be specific. I know how to find vulnerabilities in systems, things most companies don't even realize are weaknesses. Information like that? It's valuable. His eyes darkened slightly. You're suggesting something illegal, Mike? I shook my head. I'm suggesting something profitable. I can offer you information, weaknesses in security systems, gaps in firewalls, anything someone like you could use. He watched me for a long time. Then he chuckled. You're either very smart or very stupid. Probably both, I admitted. He took another sip of his espresso. And how do I know you won't screw me over? Because I need you to leave my family alone, I said. And because I don't make deals I can't deliver on. He tapped his fingers on the table, considering. Then he nodded. You have 1 week, he said. Impress me. Then he stood up and walked away. I sat there for a long time, staring at my untouched coffee. I had just made a deal with the devil. And now, I had 7 days to prove I wasn't bluffing. I spent the next 3 days buried in work. Not my usual job, I called in sick for that. No, this was something else entirely. I had just promised a group of very dangerous men valuable cybersecurity intel. That wasn't something I could fake. If I came up empty-handed, they wouldn't just walk away. So, I did what I did best. I hacked. I wasn't a criminal. Not really. My job in IT meant I knew how to find vulnerabilities, how to test systems for weaknesses. But this time, I wasn't doing it for a company. I was doing it to survive. I started digging. Looking at mid-sized businesses, ones that were making money but weren't investing properly in security. I wasn't looking to steal, just to find something, a flaw, a weakness, anything that could be leveraged. By the 5th day, I found it. A small financial firm. Not a bank, but a company that processed transactions for private clients. They had a huge security oversight, one that would allow someone to redirect certain payments before they were finalized. I had no interest in actually using it. But they would. The problem was, once I handed this over, there was no going back. I had no control over what they'd do with it. I was playing with fire. But what choice did I have? On the 7th day, I met with the well-dressed man again. This time, it wasn't at a cafe. He had texted me an address, a sleek, modern bar in the expensive part of town. When I arrived, I was led to a private booth in the back. He was already there, sipping whiskey. Right on time, he said. Let's see what you've got. I handed him a USB drive. Everything you need is on there. Company name, access points, security flaws. It's clean. Nobody will trace it back to me or you. He twirled the drive between his fingers, inspecting me. And what exactly do you get out of this? You leave my family alone. I said. No more visits. No more threats. My mom and sister don't exist to you. He smiled. And your father? I shrugged. Do what you want with him. He chuckled. Cold. Then he pocketed the drive. All right, Mike. You held up your end. I'll hold up mine. He stood up, adjusted his suit, and looked down at me. You're smart. You think ahead. That's rare. If you ever want real money, call me. Then he walked away. That night I didn't sleep. I had done what I had to do. My mom was safe. Ashley too, even if she didn't deserve it. My dad? That was his problem now. I half expected to hear from him, but the next day passed in silence. Then another. Then a week. Then, finally, my mom got a call. She answered it, listened for a few moments, then looked at me. It's Ashley, she said. Your father is gone. I frowned. Gone? She nodded, eyes wide. He disappeared. Just vanished. I took the phone. Ashley. What do you mean he's gone? Her voice was shaky. I don't know. He went out yesterday, said he was handling things, and never came back. His phone is off, his car is still here, he just disappeared. I exhaled slowly. I had a feeling I knew exactly what had happened. And I knew I'd never see him again. I wasn't surprised my dad disappeared. The moment Ashley told me, I knew exactly what happened. He had run out of time. The men he borrowed from weren't the type to let things slide. I had given them what they wanted, valuable intel, but my dad still owed them. And he had nothing to offer. No money. No leverage. No way out. I didn't ask questions. Didn't call around. Didn't try to find him. For the first time in my life, his problems weren't mine anymore. Ashley, on the other hand, completely fell apart. A week after my dad vanished, she called my mom in a panic. She had never worked a day in her life, never paid a single bill, and now suddenly she had to figure everything out alone. The house bills are due. She sobbed over the phone. The utilities, the taxes, I don't know what to do. I was sitting beside my mom when she called. She put Ashley on speaker. Ask your brother for help, she pleaded. I leaned forward. I did help, Ashley. For years. You laughed in my face. She sniffled. But this is different. Is it? I asked. You told me I owed you because we were family. That's funny, because when I needed family, you laughed while Dad kicked me out. She was silent. Figure it out, I said. Then I hung up. My mom never went back to that house. She stayed with me, slowly rebuilding her life. She got a part-time job at a local bookstore, something she had always wanted to do. For the first time in years, she looked happy. Ashley stayed in the house for 2 months before reality hit her. With no income and no way to pay the bills, she was forced to sell. She moved into a tiny apartment and got a job, an actual job. I heard through some relatives that she hated every second of it. As for my dad, he never came back. Maybe he ran. Maybe he didn't. I didn't ask. Didn't care. I just moved on. And for the first time in a long, long time, life was good.